Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast where we're for the fans, by the fans. And speaking of the fans, if you've tuned into the last couple episodes, you've probably noticed that Matt was not on the show. And I'm going to tell you
Boo.
exactly why that is. So, what happened is that Matt heard that pirate rap song that's been going around TikTok and got inspired and decided it was his life's journey to go sail the seven seas. So, during our time off, me and Ryan had to go track him down, go on this whole ass road trip. And the thing is, when we finally found him, what did Matt have to say for himself? He just looks at me and Ryan like he did nothing wrong at all and just said, "Ahoy, mateys!" And let me tell you, it was the most convincing thing in the world to try to get Matt to come back home. We not only had to convince him that we would let him listen to that song the entire car ride home, which shout out to Ryan because he had the Beats headphones that were only he could listen to it. So I would have gone crazy if I had to listen to that song the whole multi-hour car ride home. And the other thing was we had to stop at every Bucky's. Like I now never want to go to Bucky's again in my life. That is a lie. I will probably go to Bucky's the next time I pass one, but that's
Well,
still not
don't
the
lie.
point. I would say. But Matt, what do you have to say for yourself, sir?
I was off the show for a couple weeks and I didn't even go to one Bucky's actually. I went the wrong direction for that. But you get the pirate thing right. I was in Pittsburgh, and let me tell you, they do not lie about PNC Ballpark. That thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing. And it is enough to make you say arg mateys even in year 6 of a rebuild. So yeah, that's where I was. I had a good time. I was on vacation doing pirate things. Actually, I spent like 3 days at the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh. But during that time, you know what I didn't do anything of? Research. I did not care about college football for 3 whole weeks, baby. And so, in light of that, Ryan and Les are going to try and tell me who had the best off seasons now that rosters have been finalized. Which means, I guess, unless you've got money, you're not going to go anywhere. No Nicos are going to occur in the next couple minutes. Ryan, did you have a question? Why are you raising your hand?
This isn't
Yeah,
school.
where's our thank you?
No comment at this time. Let's go on. Um, uh, so Ryan and Les are going to talk about the completed college football rosters. I'm going to try my best to keep things under control, like a good ship captain. I don't know whether I'm more of a Blackbeard or a Captain Kidd, or possibly even a Barbary Corsair, or maybe even John Lafitte, who infamously helped the Americans at the Battle of New Orleans in 1815, which was part of the War of 1812, even though the Treaty of Ghent had already been signed. But anyway, let's get on with the show. We're going to start with the most obvious question of all, and the question by which will actually shock a lot of people, which is who had the best offseason? And we're going to start with Les because I guarantee, dear viewer, you are going to be shocked and amazed at who Les picked as having the best offseason. This is a team Les never talks about, has no rooting interest in, and has never talked about once on the show. So, Les, let's hear it.
In all seriousness, biases aside, can anyone convince me that another team in college football had a better offseason than the Texas Longhorns? Like Matt said, a team I just never talk about here on the show. But let's go down the line. They had the number one recruiting class. Through the transfer portal, this is going to make Texas fans very happy. They replaced Bird Auburn. They absolutely loaded up on the defensive line to the point to where now I believe they have the best defensive line in football on paper. And let's address the elephant in the room. Look at all the hype that is surrounding the fact that it is Arch Manning's team now. Honestly, if you can give me another team that had a better offseason than that, I will be surprised. But let me know in the comments if I'm wrong.
Well, before we even get to the comments section, I think Ryan's going to try to change your mind with his team that had the best offseason. Now, I'm going to be honest, I can't tease Ryan because I don't know who he picked, but I've got an idea in the back of my head and I want to see if it's correct. So, Ryan, can you convince Les that your team had a better offseason? Who is that team and how did they outdo the Texas Longhorns?
I actually don't think that you're gonna get this. For my pick, I'm gonna go with the LSU Tigers.
Oh, Okay.
Um, Starting with the recruiting, they got DJ Pickett, who has a chance to be an awesome player, who defensive back. They also got Harlem Berry, which is I think the top running back in the 2025 class. But going to the transfers, they got Patrick Payton, who is really one of probably the star um, for Florida State's defense, who's a very athletic edge rusher and makes an impact wherever you put him. He could be that potential first rounder for LSU next draft if he has a great season. Mansour Delane, who's a very good Virginia Tech corner transfer. I actually wanted him to go to Ohio State because his brother's there, but he decided to go to LSU. And I don't usually look at stats for a corner because, I mean, sometimes like you're a lockdown corner and you don't get a lot of impact, so that means your stats are not great. But he got two forced fumbles, four interceptions, and seven pass deflections, which I think they're very solid stats. And then also, and Josh Thompson, who is a very good O lineman from Northwestern, who could excel at LSU. Um, Lastly, I got Barry Brown, who I've talked about already, that could potentially be a star in that LSU wide receiver room, who we've seen stars come out of.
And did he convince me that LSU had a better offseason than Texas?
Yes,
No.
I did
No.
because yes, I did because I went with non-biased and just look at those
There was no
players.
bias
Just
here.
look at those
Number
players
one
that I
recruiting
named.
class. Arch
Just
Manning's
look
now
at
the
those
starter. Look at the hype
a
around
bunch of
that.
frauds. A bunch of frauds.
Okay.
Oh, oh man, we're talking about
Okay.
the F word.
Well,
Jonah
the
Williams
LSU
only
whiffed on
likes
Bryce Underwood.
baseball.
They're automatically out.
What?
Stop it. They whiffed on Bryce Underwood.
They did, but
I
they
They
mean,
bounced
lost to
back
that
in their
team up
offseason.
north that you
Leslie
love
Bibb.
so much.
They bounced back. They lost Bryce Underwood to $12 million.
Well, I guess we got
They
to turn
lost him.
over to Matt Reale, who apparently there's a now ending of the show Around the Horn that I apparently saw on social media today. So Matt, I
Yeah, I
think, is
just learned
taking the
that this week.
Tony Reale role of today's show. So I think he decides who wins that one.
I just
God,
learned
can
that
you
this week.
imagine if I had a mute button? That would be the most beautiful thing in the world.
Okay, we want to talk about bias. Matt would mute me every time.
He would.
I mean, is there any question?
No, I don't
Well,
blame you. I'm just saying.
well, the good news is, and I don't know because I haven't looked at the schedule, I'm going to be honest, but LSU and Texas are probably going to play each other at some point because SEC ain't missing on that money.
Yeah.
We'll get our answer then. So we'll just call this one a draw for now and wait until whatever beautiful, sunny, late November, late September Saturday, and we'll see who proves themselves more correct in the long run.
So Matt,
But
real
yeah,
quick, is it safe to say that the SEC is in search of the booty?
arg. X marks the spot less, and now that they're basically trying to expand and ensure that they get four teams into that 12-team playoff, even though the Big Ten won it this year and and Notre Dame was the runner-up. It's not looking too good. They're after the booty. They're going to find what X marks the spot. And now that we've talked about who had the best, we have to turn that question on its head, of course. Go from GOAT to WOAT, if you will, and see who had the worst offseason. We started with Les last time, so Ryan, it's your turn to go first. Who had the worst offseason of anyone in college football?
Well, coming off of a terrible season and a coach that I thought would excel there and has taken the wrong turn for sure, I'm going to go with the Wisconsin Badgers. I was very high on Luke Fickle. Obviously, when he was at Cincinnati, doing well, made the college football playoff. Now with to Wisconsin, I was like he could really prove himself in the Big Ten, and he's a Big Ten guy. He went to Ohio State. I was actually rooting for him, but it's honestly taking a turn for the worst. And this season, he will be fighting for his job. But yeah, not only are they in a terrible position of how their season went last season, they didn't have a great offseason either with improving their team. Les is starstruck right
Something has happened less. He's
Sorry,
soy.
I gotta I got a card show going on in the background, and some of the cards that this dude pulled were just awesome. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you all.
Oh, you're all good.
I
You're all
just look up and Les is doing the soy jack face, and I'm like, what's going on here?
good. He was starstruck. Um, but they didn't improve in the offseason. They lost their leading receiver, Tawi Walker. I think that's how you say his name. Um, that was their leading rusher. Sorry, they lost their leading receiver to Notre Dame, Will Pauling. They got Tanner Kazoil, maybe that's how you say his name, but then lost him in the spring window. It's not ideal for Luke Fickle, who is fighting for his job, and they're losing all of their. And honestly, their quarterback is not that great, but losing all of this talent that they had that could improve next season. But yeah, it's just not going well for Wisconsin.
They are not going to be jumping around in Madison this fall, is what I'm hearing, huh?
Yeah,
It's going to be a house of pain in a different way,
yeah,
and the pain will be everlasting. Man, that was like 3 punts in a row with no reaction. Unbelievable from the peanut gallery
I
here.
blame
I'm
Les.
trying to contain myself. I'm trying to control my emotions because I have my take coming up next.
Well, Les, you better pack it up, pack it in, and begin with your take of who had the college football worst offseason.
For starters, I want to say after I broke Ryan down in the last step segment, I want to say I'm going to build you back up because I really like that take. That was a very good um, analysis there. Wisconsin is a team that I think everybody on this podcast was high on, especially after they hired Luke Fickell as their head coach.
Yep.
No, it's a team that I've talked about ad nauseum when they first hired him. Is not only with the Luke Fickell move, but the coordinators that they brought in, and even some of the transfers that they brought in. So very, very good. I'm giving you a compliment. I'm trying to be
Thank
nice
you.
here.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. But the team I went with is the Cal Golden Bears. You know, it's the first year in the new conference, and they went 2-6. They needed something to go right this offseason, and they didn't get anything to go right. Basically, they lose their two top playmakers from a year ago, in Fernando Mendoza and Jaden Ott, and they really didn't get anybody big enough to replace him, at least on paper. They replace him essentially with Oregon's backup quarterback. That was the highlight of their transfer portal. Their transfer portal is 56th, including last in the ACC. So that's why I went with Cal as my worst team, as the team who had the worst offseason.
And
Cal
they
is also one of those teams where it's like if they just get a few plays that go a little bit differently, they're not 2-6. They're like probably 500, maybe even above, because we all know what happened on that Miami play. We don't
Right.
like to talk about it, but I mean, it would have been impressive if just a few balls bounced the right way. How we're talking about Cal right now, especially in the ACC. But Ryan, what did you want to say? That you kind of try to jump in there.
didn't they lose like five running backs at one point?
Yes, they
Yeah, I
lost
mean
a
Yeah,
lot of them.
I just mentioned Jaden Knott to like kind of
He
sum it
is
up,
like,
but yeah,
yeah. I mean, they lost their best one plus four others.
yeah,
They lost all their depth.
they gonna
they
be
got their they got
that
their asses served like John McEnroe.
exactly.
And speaking of Cal and their quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who transferred to Indiana of all places, there's always a team that flies under the radar. Last year, it probably was those Indiana Hoosiers or SMU Mustangs sneaking into the college football playoff, giving a decent effort and then moving on. But in the new expanded playoff era, there will always be a few teams that sneak in and have a surprisingly good offseason that could lead to some regular season success. With that being said, who's had the most underrated offseason? Who has, meaning like in terms of who's got a secret portal class weapon that's really good, who's got a secret loaded transfer portal class, and who did you pick? We're going to start with Les on this one. Who's your sleeper in having an underrated offseason?
After these last two episodes, you might as well chalk me down as a bandwagon Georgia Tech fan because I think they had one of the most underrated off seasons in college football. They had the 23rd ranked recruiting class. This was really high for their standards. Not to mention they brought in the second highest rated prospect in program history. The only one above him is Megatron, literally in the Hall of Fame, literally one of the best receivers to ever play the game of football. Um, and not to mention Haynes King, they were able to bring him back, and there was even when there was talks of him potentially entering the transfer portal. And their transfer portal class ranks sixth in the conference, which is a lot higher than you would expect the Yellow Jackets to rank. And I talked about last weekend how they're quietly building one of the best offensive lines in college football. They were projected to finish 58th in pass protection this past year, but ended up finishing 10th. And then, of course, you bring in the second highest rated prospect in program history who is on that offensive line. So Georgia Tech, I think, had one of the most underrated off seasons in college football.
All right, Brian, that should get you buzzing. So, who did you pick for your most underrated offseason in college football?
My most underrated offseason. I actually picked this one last because I was trying to. It was a hard decision to pick because I was trying to go through like portal rankings and stuff like that and find a team in the middle, kind of. I chose Nebraska, who had a very, very solid offseason. Rocco Spindler and Elijah Pritchett have a lot of playing time as offensive linemen. Rocco Spindler coming from Notre Dame, Elijah Pritchett coming from Alabama. One of the best prospects that they've gotten in the portal was William Waneri, who was a very, very honestly one of the best or one of the highest ranked D linemen in his class, who has potential to be a star. And they also got Dane Key, who is kind of that second receiver at Kentucky, but he was still a really, really good receiver. Having a quarterback coming back from his freshman season that they trust a lot in Dylan Raiola. I think that this portal class and some of the recruits could put him in to have a ton of success this season in the Big Ten, and they could be a team to watch out for.
Well, unless Patrick Mahomes changes his hairstyle again, and then nobody will be able to recognize Dylan Raiola anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, that was a good one. I get no respect at all. None at all. Let's
Uh,
just go on to the next topic then. We talked about Luke
well,
Fickle
I mean,
earlier.
okay, all right, I'll play, I'll bite. Yeah, because then Dylan Raiola is going to have to change his whole personality, and then he's going to have to learn a whole new offense because that's just how it works. I mean, every time Patrick Mahomes
Thank,
changes anything, he's got to copycat him. So I got you.
Got to learn new
thank you.
celebrations.
Thank you. Thank you. Earlier we talked about Luke Fickle. That's a great name for a pun. But there's one coach who has like a great. Well, I'm going to give Les this pick away. I'm sorry, Les. So I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to give it away. We talked earlier about Luke Fickle, but there's one coach who has a very pun-based name that we love here, and that's Will Variables. We love him so much. The coach of Oklahoma. If so
Brent
much
variables.
Brent Variables. Not what did I say?
You said Will. I think no. I think to
I'm
keep it
thinking of
on.
Will Venables.
Yeah, you were. I think we're because as much as we talk about Will Wade on this podcast, I think you've got Will Wade and Brent Venables. Now I almost called him Brent Variables as his
That's what
real
we
name.
call him. Speaking of Brent Variables, Les, why did Oklahoma need to have such a good offseason? And did they?
Well, I think we all can agree that Brent Variables has not lived up to the hype that some put on him since he took the Oklahoma job. Their first season in the SEC was a wash. And I think it's only appropriate that Brent Venables comes from the school of Dabo Sweeney because now we can build the same narrative around them that they ain't shit without an all-time quarterback. Because his only successful year at Oklahoma by Oklahoma standards was when they had Dylan Gabriel. So this was the make it or break it year, in my opinion, for Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners. And to their credit, they did have a decent offseason on paper. They brought in John Mateer. They brought in Jaden Ott. And they're going to need them to play their best football if they want to compete with, Big Brother down the road of the Red River rivalry, the Texas Longhorns, who are also in the SEC.
He still finds a way, man. I think we could have a take about minor league baseball, and somehow Texas would get a shout out because somebody on that minor league team is like friends with Steve.
Well, Adam Dunn used to play for the Louisville Bats here locally, and you know where Adam Dunn went to college? Texas.
Now he's slandering the big donkey. Unbelievable.
Oh, slander. He went to Texas.
Mm-hmm. Do you leave Adam Dunn out of this, okay?
He went to Texas.
I don't care if he went to Texas. You leave Adam Dunn out of this.
That's literally where he
You're a
went.
Cardinals fan anyway. Come on.
I mean, Adam Dunn didn't play his whole career for the Reds.
Yeah, we don't talk about those White Sox years. Oof,
One of
that
the
was
most
rough.
exciting players in baseball. He either hit it 500 feet or he
Or
struck out, and you
people start
never knew which it was going to
switching
be.
off. But when he hit that ball and it went over the smokestacks, you felt something in your chest that made you proud to be an American. Damn it!
Didn't he? Did he? Am I wrong on this? Or didn't he say that he only plays baseball for the money?
He did say that. And I remember everyone being like, "I can't believe someone would say that." It's like, yeah, these dudes would play baseball for free. I'm sure. Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure Joey Votto's like, "Oh yeah." Well, Joey
You
Votto
know,
actually might. That guy's different. Joey Votto's built different.
I
Probably not
mean,
even.
it's like young Dolph always said, you getting mad, I'm getting rich.
No, pretty much. All right, Ryan, before we lose too much track of this show, who needed to have a great offseason in college football, in your opinion? And more importantly, did they?
You know, for how good their success has been in history. Uh, this team had a total flop last year. That they were ranked 10th, and they just slipped on a banana peel and fell down. The Florida State Seminoles had one of the worst seasons that they've ever had last season. Were you about to say something, less?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Florida State had a terrible season, one of their worst seasons. Went 2-10, and got everyone's attention by losing to Georgia Tech the first game by a game-losing field goal. But they definitely needed to have a great offseason, and I think they did have a solid offseason. Thomas Cassi- uh, Thomas Cassianos from Boston College, learning from Bill O'Brien. I think he is a good quarterback that I actually like with his ability to move around the pocket and make a good throw. He's very fast, and he could be a very good quarterback for Florida State under Mike Norvell. Squirrel White, who's a very fast receiver from Tennessee, who, if you remember his last game, he got ran out in Columbus by that treacherous loss. I just had to bring that up. But Squirrel White, a good wide receiver from Tennessee, who could be one of their best receivers. James Williams, who's a very physical and finesse edge rusher from Nebraska, who it could be very, very good for and one of their top defenders after Patrick Payton leaving. And last but not least, Deuce Robinson, who has a chance to be an absolute star, was a very high rated recruit. I have him as a wide receiver slash tight end because he was coming out of the rankings. He was a tight end, but now he's been kind of moved to wide receiver, so he could play honestly both. But he's a very, very tall, listed at 6'6", could be an elite player, very, very athletic player that will have a huge impact on the Florida State Seminoles because they need impact.
They need impact.
They
That's
need
all.
impact.
They need
Yep.
impact. They need it, damn it. Well, I would agree with Ryan on this one. I think Florida State actually did have the offseason they need, but Mike Norvell's probably like fighting for his job in ways we can't even imagine because I am still shocked he has a job at Florida State. So, I mean, I can't imagine what's going through that guy's head right now. So, yeah, I think Florida State did have a pretty good offseason. So I'm going to go with Florida State on that one, too. I mean, I just want Oklahoma to like lose so that way we can keep making the Brent variables joke. I can't lie. This is all for personal interest of keeping the podcast interesting. And now that we've reached our final question, I bet you can't guess what Les is going to do here. We are going to grade our teams, your teams, not mine, off seasons. Luke, Luke. Les is obviously going to grade Duke and Texas. I combined Les and Duke there. I'm proud of myself. And then Ryan is going to talk about Ohio State and Louisville. I don't even remember who went first on that last question, but I think I know what Les is going to say about Texas. So Les, go ahead. We'll go ahead and rank Texas offseason. You just said they had the best one, so
Obviously, it's an A plus. I
The
mean, I
point.
don't have to spend much time on there. I already said it's the best offseason in college football. So that would be quite the curveball if I just said, "Yo, Texas's offseason was a B, but they had the best in college football." Then nobody has an A on that grading scale. Also, I like that you combined Les and Duke to make Luke because one of my childhood good friends' name is Luke. So shout out to the Brody Luke on that one.
That's why this podcast exists, is to give shout outs to friends.
Exactly. And
So,
honestly, with Duke, I'm going to go with an A plus as well. And the reason I say that is because they brought in the number one recruiting class in program history. Manny Diaz is absolutely doing work for the Blue Devils. And we got to keep in mind here, this isn't the basketball team. We see number one recruiting classes for the basketball team every year, but the football team has been a completely different story. But they brought in the top recruiting class in program history this offseason. Big shout out to Manny Diaz yet again. They landed quarterback in Darian Minza, who, even though I got love for Malik Murphy, Darian Minza is a better fit for that offense, I believe. And not to mention, they brought back the best player from last year's team in Chandler Rivers, which was an absolutely must-have move. So, Duke, I got to give you an A plus offseason, and that is bias aside.
all right, Ryan, go ahead and rank Louisville and Ohio State.
All right, after Mr. Unbiased talked, I'm just kidding.
You cut out, bro.
Ryan muted himself rather than he committed to the unbiasedness. I appreciate that.
He's still going.
Still
We can't
going.
hear him. I
Ryan,
didn't.
unmute yourself.
We're now waiting technical difficulties for Ryan to unmute himself.
Uh oh.
He
Uh oh.
still muted
We still
himself.
can't hear him. We're gonna read Ryan's lips now and tell you what he thinks of the Ohio State offseason.
All right, I'm reading his lips right now, and it looks like he's trying to say that. Well, now it's looking like he's saying he loves us. That's cute.
We love you too, Ryan. It looks like he's saying F in the chat for Ohio State. He thinks they're doomed. Uh oh. Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying F in the chat for Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith, the most overrated player of all time.
Now he's
Whoa.
that was a big statement. He just that I don't know if you caught that, Matt. He just said Miller Moss is the best quarterback in college football, and he calls me biased. That
I'm
is
not
insane.
muted.
There we go. Welcome back,
I
Ryan.
was not muted. I don't have my mic anymore, but I'm not muted. Can you all hear me well?
We can hear
Yes.
you. Now give us a real
Honestly, we
take.
could hear you better now than with the mic, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
I know.
Okay, then I won't use the mic then. I'm gonna just hold it, you know.
Oh, hey, yo.
This one's almost over.
But what was I gonna say? Starting off
Ranking
with
the
Ohio
offense.
State, I'm gonna go with an A. I feel like it was a very solid. I don't think we had a lot of transfers going out, but I trust our young players, so we didn't need like a ton, but we went quality over quantity. We got a couple guys that we needed. We got Max Clare, who is going to be one of the best tight ends in the country. Who else do we get? We get trying to think.
This is either really good or really bad. They either
Hold
had
on.
such a good offseason that he can't remember all the players or such a bad one that he's trying to come up with any excuse to call him good.
Hold on.
He's going to the web, folks.
Why can I not think?
I don't know.
It is jarring when your mic gives out like that. I will give him the benefit of the doubt because it's like, why am I not speaking?
Okay. All right, I got it. We got Bo Atkinson, who can be a very, very good edge rusher from North Carolina. I guess he didn't want to learn under Bill Belichick and he wanted to come to the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's going to be very, very good. He's a very physical and he'll use his power to go right through you. No diddy. Um, and we also got Ethan Onienwa. I'm just going to keep saying his last name like that. I'm not sure if it's right. From Rice, who we could turn him into a first rounder next year. He's huge and he's got a lot of power. And most importantly, he has a ton of energy. He'll bring that energy as an offensive tackle. So I'm going to go A for Ohio State. I thought it was a very solid offseason. And coming off of the reigning, defending national champions. That's what you all have to call us. We had an A off season. Now for Louisville, I think it was a very solid offseason too. I'm gonna go A again. I'm not gonna give him an A plus, but Miller Moss has a chance to be very good under Jeff Brom. We know how Jeff Brom is good at developing that kind of older quarterbacks. Trayshawn Hurry, who's a very good player, that will make that will make a big impact here. And then we got a tight end from Oklahoma who could. We lost Jamari Johnson to Oregon, which sucks. I was actually high on him, but the tight end from Oklahoma could be have a huge impact early for the Louisville Cardinals and be one of the best pass catchers for us, besides Colin Lacey, who is going to be very good.
Does
Everyone's
Louisville have the best running back room in college football? Because I'm hearing a lot
Yes,
of
yes,
Louisville
they
fans.
do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. What do you know about Isaac Brown and Duke Watson? For our ability to keep them, that's pretty good.
As much as I would love to like shade that team with no conference, I think they got the best running back room, honestly.
Well, we will find out this season for sure. They definitely have the best running back currently right now. But
Louisville?
Notre Dame will
no,
hear.
Notre
I
Dame.
was about to say, oh, whoa, what?
Yeah, I
Jeremiah
like
Love
Isaac
is the
Brown a
best running
lot,
back right
but
now, but
I was about to say all the bias you called me. Dang.
Jeremiah Love's definitely the best right now.
I would
Yeah,
agree with
for
that.
sure.
Look, we've got like 6 minutes left, and we've gotten through all of our topics, but we're going to keep going here. But before we get too far along with our BSing, we'd like to remind everyone once again to like and subscribe to the podcast. Check out the Spotify. Follow the side quest at Beans Dad on TikTok.
Beans at 018.
Beans Dad 018. I don't know what Les is doing right now.
I'm
Um,
dancing because it was a great show. And the birthday boy has finally decided to make an
oh,
appearance on
there
this
he is.
show.
Happy birthday, Bean.
Happy Bean Day, Birth.
He is no longer Emperor Bean. He is Birthday Bean, and he turned the big 6 today.
Oh,
Big
wow.
six.
Now you can. Well, where'd his head go? There it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. It was so weird because you got it like perfect.
You gotta put it in front of your face. Block less.
Do it, Bean. Do it.
But
He
I
can't
want
block my face because my head's too big. I
No.
got the
Well,
chrome dome up here.
no, it's partially true. Bean is a small.
before we get off here, I want to ask, how do we think about the new college football playoff format? I like it personally.
It
The
was,
straight seeding.
to quote Thanos, it was inevitable because
Inevitable.
those big conferences, whenever we get up to 14 or 16 teams, they're going to want to make sure they're getting returns on their investment. So I figured we were looking at like 8 teams from not 8 teams, 4 teams each from the Big Ten and the SEC just to make sure they got their name in there. And then I think they're doing the right thing with the seeding. I understand that it kind of takes away some of that stuff from smaller teams, but I think it's going to be just fine because that was the one thing everyone complained about this year was, oh, why did they get a bye but they didn't, and we still got good games out of it.
Yep.
It's one of those things that seems unfair, but nobody's really going to complain about in the long run. But to me, these were all the inevitable changes as we continue down the path of still what I think is going to end up being two mega conferences, kind of like the NFC and the AFC and the NFL. It just seemed like an inevitability to me. So I'm not really that perturbed over it because, as many times as we've tried to reinvent it, the college football playoff will never be what we want it to be. It will never be the perfect, unbiased, equal opportunity thing that we all envision it to be. It's been a crapshoot since I was born, and it will be a crapshoot when I die. So just might as well enjoy the ride.
Two things are for certain. One, not everything we do, someone is going to complain. Number
Yeah.
one. And number two, anything is better than the old school BCS where a computer decided our national champion.
In a way, that was AI before AI.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you say that, it kind of you could argue it was ahead of its time.
We should go back to that. We should just ask
Let's not go back to that. No.
ChatGPT, is Texas overrated? Yes.
ChatGPT, is Miami overrated? That 2001 Miami team that literally didn't play anybody, didn't even play a top five team all year long.
Why are you coming at Miami like that?
They know
What
why.
does Miami do to you?
Are any of us even Miami? I like Miami, Ohio.
I don't like Miami.
Well, yeah, you're in the same
I
conference.
haven't forgot about the eight lateral game. His knee was down, damn it.
Everyone remembers Mario Cristobal not taking that knee. Beautiful moment.
That's not the knee I
Beautiful.
was talking about.
I know it's not, but still, it was a beautiful moment. Miami is involved in many beautiful moments.
And I hate it, but they might be back.
They could be. They could be.
Brian
Just ain't
Ryan's not
me.
sold, but I think I am.
No,
You know
no, but
what? To cope with my sorrow of Miami might being back, I'm just gonna remind everyone that Carson Beck apparently has no friends.
I know I was about to say that, but
He
so
can't
pray
get
for
by
him.
with a little help from his friends now.
What friends? He has no friends.
I know he can't get by with a little help from his friends.
Oh, I thought you said he can get by with the help of his friends. I'm
No,
like,
no,
dude,
he can't even live to the moral standards of a Beatles song.
he's the Bo Callahan of college football.
It's true. You know
Him
who else?
and
Oh, go on, Ryan.
him in the huddle, everyone's probably rolling their eyes and just like this guy again.
Not this guy.
I
I'm
wonder
not
how many of his Miami teammates have that picture of him sitting on the bench while Georgia's actually getting blown out and he's just smiling.
probably way too many.
Probably.
Hey, Les, you know who else is back?
Who?
Me.
That's right. We Matt is back from his little pirate adventure.
And
Yep.
so to conclude today's show, I'm going to tell you all about what I discovered at the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, the wonderful world of phytosaurs, which are like crocodilians, but not actually evolutionarily the same thing. So when you walk into the museum, you'll see this wonderful Rutiodon, which is an example of a Triassic phytosaur, which I'm trying to see if I can run out the clock, but I'm not going to make it. That was I thought we had the best
They
time.
said that you
I
gonna slide my way.
I got something to say. Texas is scared of coming to Ohio State at night. They already admitted it. They are scared to come to the shoe at night. They're
That
not.
is fake news.
They are scared of coming to the shoe at night. That's why they denied.
I'm scared of being
Yet
alone
it's
with my
still on the
thoughts at
schedule.
night.
Yeah, but they don't want a later game. They are scared.
Yet we're still playing.
Yeah, we are still going. You never know when it's going to kick off.
I'm
Probably
scared of bears.
now.
Now,
Now,
Three,
now,
2,